Hello and welcome to the Daily Debates live here on Nile TV International. I'm Tagreed Hussein and I have the pleasure of your company for the coming hour. We'll be talking about the most important headlines. Egypt in preparation of more than one celebration. Egypt celebrating the Lesser Bayram or Eid al-Fitr starting Friday and marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan. We mark it today. So tomorrow we'll be celebrating Eid. Many happy returns for all Egyptians around the world celebrating Eid al-Fitr, and also Arab and Muslim countries celebrating the feast. Dar al-Ifta, the official Islamic authority, had announced that they had spotted the new moon of Shawwal this month following Ramadan. Marking the occasion, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi had exchanged messages of congratulations with the Arab monarchs and the Muslim leaders. Earlier, the armed forces had greeted the Egyptian people on the official Facebook page. The army spokesman Mohammed Samir had said that the armed forces greet the Arab and the Muslim world on the feast, particularly the families of the martyrs, hailing each and every parent in Egypt's urban, rural cities and also in the villages for their sacrifices, saying that they are the country's shield and they are the country's strong will. So, an exchange of messages of congratulations on behalf of Nile TV to all our viewers worldwide celebrating Eid al-Fitr or the Lesser Bayram. Well, from one celebration to the other, preparations are underway for the Suez Canal, new Suez Canal Access Project, what we call the Egyptian dream, Egypt's gift to the whole world. Egypt is one of the biggest economies and also tourist destinations in Africa, and while we are opting and looking forward to the construction of the new Suez Canal project, it is a very important driver for the Egyptian economy. We'll be talking about how is it going to be a turning point for Egypt, and the celebration will be another feast after the Bayram taking place on August the 6th for everybody. Heads of states had been invited by President al-Sisi to attend the official celebration, the inaugural ceremony. The project is meant to transfer several cities along the canal, and importantly, it is going to create more 1 million jobs over the years, so helping also in solving the problem of unemployment and attracting further investments, attracting the private sector also to participate in many investment projects. There has been investments that have already been pledged by companies in more than one field, in maritime, in the field of infrastructure, and also in the tourism sectors, in order to finance this sense of urban transformation. So we'll be talking about the project tonight, another celebration, another feast for Egypt. Not only we do have the Lesser Bayram tomorrow, but August the 6th is going also to be a day of celebration and another feast for Egypt. We'll talk about the big day. We'll talk about the sense of preparations, the projects that are going to be underway, and in parallel with this important hit for the country, how is it going to change the face of life, and how will the world really benefit from this important project that we dub as Egypt's gift to the whole world. Let's watch this report, and we'll be back for further discussion.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi addressed the nation in a speech at the Egyptian family iftar before over 700 attendees. According to a presidency statement, the iftar was attended by several families of deceased police and military officials, youth, media personalities, and representatives of different social factions. al-Sisi defended laws he recently passed, saying that they aimed to achieve the will of the Egyptians, granting immunity to the state and preventing its position and institutions. He also said that they aim to prevent schemes aimed at discouraging citizens and shaking the stability of the country. President al-Sisi said that the opening of the new waterway of Suez Canal on August 8th will be a happy occasion for all Egyptians, and that he wished all Egyptians could attend it. He assured that all efforts were being exerted to launch the opening in a respectable manner. The president renewed the pledge to hold parliamentary elections before the end of the year. He pointed to the recent passing of an electoral law dividing voting constituencies as a commitment from his administration to fulfill his promise. Sisi took the opportunity to congratulate the Egyptian people and the people of the Arab and Muslim countries on the upcoming Eid al-Fitr holiday, which marks the end of the holy month of Ramadan. The president also took the opportunity to pay homage to the fallen officers and conscripts of the security and armed personnel. He said that their sacrifices came to ensure the lives of millions of Egyptians. He also called for caution when transmitting news and information, saying that accuracy must be ensured to preserve the high spirits of citizens as well as security and military personnel. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi addressed the nation in a speech at the Egyptian family iftar before over 700 attendees. According to a presidency statement, the iftar was attended by several families of
We're back, and from one feast to another. Many happy returns on behalf of Nile TV on the occasion of the Lesser Bayram. We have another hit taking place August the 6th with Egypt's inauguration of the new Suez Canal Access Project. Talking more about the features of that day, how about the celebration, and also the projects that are going to be underway on the sidelines. We have with us Professor Dr. Ahmed Mehna, Professor of Political Economy. Dr. Mehna, thank you very much and happy Eid.
Thanks. Thanks, the same to you.
Well, starting off with the inauguration day, your expectations for that day and how far will it make a difference as a launching pad for this huge project?
I think it will be one of the limited days that Egyptians really witness a transformation period of a new era where Egyptians are going into the 21st century with a new vision, a new political system, going over a lot of their problems, whether economically, socially, and politically. And I think all Egyptians, especially after their participation economically, collecting in 8 days 64 billion Egyptian pounds, it's a sign of contribution, it's a sign of awakening and a new awareness of the surroundings of the Egyptians in a new world order. And I think this is going to mark the start of a new civilization, hoping that it will put us on a new phase in the 21st century.
Right. It's very important that we always utilize the positive spirit and the positive energy that is associated with such projects. With the Suez Canal New Access project, we find a sense of belonging on behalf of Egyptians.
Absolutely.
They were really keen to
that's
participate.
Definitely, absolutely. The cultural and social benefits are a lot greater than the economic, and also going, taking into account the economic problems that Egypt has witnessed over the past few years in terms of slow economic growth, the high budget deficit, as well as the general debt that's reaching about 2 trillion Egyptian pounds. I think Suez Canal will contribute to the economy through the tariffs of passing, and once completed the access of the Suez Canal, we're looking at about over 100 billion Egyptian pounds in revenue, as well as more than 1.5 million jobs being created. So definitely it will have a great contribution on different aspects of the life of the Egyptians.
Right. In preparation, in anticipation for that important day, what sort of messages is it going, from your opinion, Dr. Mehana, to send to the whole world while Egypt delivered on its promises, and also concerning its leadership? So a sense of credibility is here. We are having the project on solid grounds. Yeah.
I think over the past 30 years, Egypt really lost a lot of its credibility. Talking about its position and rank in the Middle East and in the entire world in terms of its strength, in terms of its ability to lead the Arab nation. We've seen a lot of problems, whether economically, socially, and politically. We've seen a lot of dividing in the Arab world, and now going back to rebuilding
that
absolutely. So that particular project will help Egypt to regain its strategic position, looking at a trade at the center of trade. And I was hoping that this will start in 1990 after Hong Kong gone back to China. That would be our opportunity, but it's not so late. We're starting now to have that Suez Canal that will basically revitalize the Silk Road in that particular area, basically activate the trade routes among the three countries, particularly in Africa, and put Egypt back in its position as a leader to the African nation. So definitely the first message that Egyptians are coming back, leading the Arab world into a new era where the Arabs, value work and value production, because over the past 30 years, we really lost a lot of production. We lost a lot of investment in the Arab region, and the power, economic power, has really been divided between China in the Far East, Japan and Korea, and the Western society, whether it's Western Europe or United States. But now I think, as Mr. Mamish said, that the development of the Suez Canal corridor will basically attract investment, not just in trade, but we're looking at manufacturing, heavy industries, looking at tourism, looking at different areas like agriculture, and as well helping the Arab world to regain its position strategically in the world.
Right. Dr. Mehana, what sense of incentives will such a huge project send to the whole world? How about the interest in this project economically?
If we look at the actual benefits of the Suez Canal development area, we're looking at free zone areas that will be basically starting, and we've seen now the decision when it comes to the Chinese free zone, the Russian free zone. On top of that, we're looking at about 42 mega projects, of them six tunnels below the Suez Canal, looking at 2 of them carrying cars, 2 of them carrying railway lines. So we're talking about tying Asia to Africa, and that's the first benefit to the world, having the trade ties between Africa and Europe. Secondly, it helps Egypt to become basically the center of distribution of oil and crops. And we've seen now the mega project in Damietta, where the savings of that. So definitely will help Egypt to contribute to the movements of trade, capital, and labor. On top of that, we'll see a reduction in the cost of production to the rest of the world when, for example, Chinese manufacturers manufacture in China and move these products to Europe or to the United States. It costs them the cost of transportation. So by moving some of that production into the Suez Canal area, I think it will reduce because it becomes a very short distance to export to Europe, to Africa, and to Asia. So definitely, we're expecting that mega companies will start to invest. On top of that, we've seen the correction of legislation, and we've seen the first one, the correction of the investment legislation that basically grants them some access to financing. It grants them basically security against any nationalization of whatsoever from the Egyptian government in the future, which was one of the problems that the investors faced in the past. It also helps them in terms of regulating prices, because Egypt is looking here, and that's also according to the foreign investment law, says that the government will not get involved in the pricing regulation of the products, which basically is good for foreign investors, that they're able to sell their products at the market price. So that shows that profitability will be definitely maximized in that particular region. So in brief, we're talking about the location as advantage to the world, cost of production as advantage to the world, the availability of labor, the availability of technology, and availability of routes.
And a sense of diversity at the same time.
Absolutely.
It's also a plus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
So
that
it's a win-win
area
situation.
is quite, absolutely. And even if you look at, if you allow me in a few seconds, if you look at the advantage of the Suez Canal as a route compared to Panama or the North Sea, Cape of Good Hope and the Singapore Canal, those are the four competitors. Singapore Canal, North Sea, Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, and the Panama Canal. The Suez Canal reduces the cost of passing through to the shipping companies through the Suez Canal about 40% of the Panama cost. It reduced about 30% of the North Sea and about 60% of the cost involved of passing around Africa. So here the shipping companies are benefit, manufacturing are benefits, and on top of that, they are the widening of the Suez Canal, are deepening it. In the project, we're looking at reaching 65 feet depth, and basically that helps large shipping companies to pass through the Suez Canal. So we'll have really a different approach of competition where the Suez Canal puts that entire region into a different level.
A huge and a giant, actually, industrial hub that is going to attract.
And it's benefit to the rest of the world as well.
Yeah. You're talking, Dr. Muhanna, about the Russian investments and also the Chinese. How is it going to be a win-win situation? In what way are they going to introduce here industries that are quite different from the other projects that have been undertaken previously?
The fault that we really happened in the last 30 years that Egypt was one-sided when it comes to international relations, and international trade was part of it.
Now it's a sense of partnership.
Absolutely. So this is and it's a win-win situation. So Egypt is looking at United States where it's benefiting Egypt, looking at China, Russia where it's benefiting us as well. Number one, looking at the Russian technology. In terms of cash investment, it's not going to be great from Russia, but we're looking at investment in terms of technology, weapons, heavy industries, and nuclear. And now you can say that in the Dabar station, that will be run by the Russians. Chinese are very good when it comes to manufacturing, particularly small and medium enterprises in different types of industries. They contribute about 65%, the small and medium enterprises.
Isn't it like a sense of incentive for other countries as well? I mean, when they see the Chinese and the Russians, so they, they would follow suit.
Absolutely. So we need to look at the win-win situation, or the mutual benefit between all parties. So in terms of China, the main advantage to us will be the contribution of small and medium enterprises, new industries. Number two, they're going to help us to revitalize the economy that was stopped. We're talking about 3,602 factories that have already stopped. Also having that Chinese investment in Egypt is going to reduce flooding Chinese products into Egypt, because it's going to be already inside. It's going to help Chinese to export. At the same time, it's going to control killing of our small enterprises. We're looking also at some other countries like Korea, Germany, Italy. So I think, as Mr. President said, that it will, the partnership in trade will work on a mutual benefit to all countries, and definitely we're looking at a major change in our economy in the next 3 to 5 years.
Right. How about local investors? Well, we are talking about the small and medium-sized enterprises, that we are also encouraging the youth to participate. So how will the youth play a part in
this particular issue was quite crucial in the Egyptian economy, looking at number one, small and medium enterprises contribute about 80% of the value added where the citizen feels it, but it only contributes about 4% to the actual economy. So small enterprises in Egypt are not fully supported. But if you look at the number, then the number of small and medium enterprises contribute 99% of all registered private sector. So there are 99% of companies contribute only 4%, where in China they contribute 65%. So number one, based on what you accurately referred to, is we're going to need to look at small enterprises in Egypt.
Right.
And what are the small enterprises in Egypt? We're talking about kiosks, small supermarkets, the traders on the street. Now, when it comes to traders, this is a very crucial issue, because these are 6 million Egyptian traders on the street. Their contribution to the economy, according to the last figures, it's 1.2 trillion Egyptian pounds per annum. So this contributes about 65% of the Egyptian economy is actually on the street, meaning that it's not registered. It's an unofficial business. So the unofficial business of Egypt is run by free traders on the street that needs to be regulated. And we've heard a few months ago about the nationalization of the beans carrots, if you like, on the street. So number one, looking after small enterprises. Number two, looking at the informal sector to regulate it, to gain basically taxes. Number three, looking at youth, because they are now contributing. As Mr. President said, we are a young nation, so we need to basically utilize that resource in Egypt that is about 65% of the total population.
Right. How will this reflect also on a huge challenge that is before the whole world, not only for Egypt, which is alleviating in a way or another the sense of unemployment? So the contribution to this challenge, such projects, how do they help in alleviating this problem?
Looking at the entire world now, the countries or all economies have become interdependent. So we cannot really rely on ourselves on that. We need to look at foreign direct investment. If we look at the three basic factors that contribute to the success of any economy, is land, labor, and capital. Land, we've got the land, and part of that was redesigning the provinces in Egypt in 2014. Number two, labor. Now the reforming of the labor capital and help people through training, having establishment the technical ministry, or the Ministry of the Technical Education, is again another approach. And number three is a capital. And when it comes to capital, we're looking at foreign direct investment and the local investment. Local investment, we're talking about 1.2 trillion Egyptian pounds from the informal sector. Foreign direct investment, we're looking at international investors, basically, that we can attract them through legislation.
Right. Well, it's a very important project, and it actually markets Egypt as a whole to the world. So Egypt diplomacy is also playing a very important role, briefing the international community on this important project, the new Suez Canal. The foreign minister asserted a very important role that has been played by Egypt's diplomacy in order to brief the international community on the project. The following report highlights that important role. And let's watch, and we'll be back.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri asserted a role played by Egypt's diplomacy to brief the international community on the importance of the new Suez Canal project for global trade. Shukri has reiterated that the project represents a starting point towards a new era of stability and prosperity. The top diplomat said that the enthusiasm of Egyptians to finance the major project has given a hand to the Egyptians' diplomacy to send a message to the world that the Egyptian public will back the national leadership led by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Shukri said that the foreign ministry marks its best to help in the planned historic inauguration of the project. He praised efforts exerted by the armed forces in executing the project and in bringing about stability into Sinai. Launched in August 2014, the new Suez Canal project aims to add a new 72-kilometer-long shipping lane to the existing canal, linking the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, and to develop the zone around it into an industrial and commercial hub. The project will increase the daily average of transiting vessels to 97 ships by the 2023, up to 49 ships at present. It will also achieve direct unstopped transit for 45 ships in the two directions. According to the website of the Suez Canal Authority, it will increase the Suez Canal revenues from $5.3 billion American dollars to $13.226 billion American dollars in 2023, an increase equal to 259% that shall positively contribute to Egypt's national income of hard currencies. The project goes side by side with the Suez Canal Area Development Project. Both projects will add to the importance of the Suez Canal and will make it a route of choice for ship owners all over the world, putting any alternative routes out of competition. A ceremony to inaugurate the new canal is to be held on August 6th.
Well, still talking about this important project, the new Suez Canal project, and we have with us over the line Dr. Walid Shaker, economic expert. Dr. Shaker, happy Lesser Bayram. And we're not only talking about the feast, another feast underway. Actually, August 6th is a big day for Egypt as a whole. So how about the inauguration day? How do you expect it to go? And at the same time, how will the project mean for Egypt and the whole world? What are the benefits?
Good evening to you and to your viewers. Just a small correction. My name is Walid Higazi. And with the inauguration day, it is a very much anticipated and been long waiting for day. In the midst of all of the circumstances that we've been living through over the last 5 years, I think this event comes as a sort of a relief to the Egyptian community at large and to the region, as some hope that this will be the beginning of a new economic, I would say, stage or phase in the current Egyptian, I think, development challenges that we have been facing.
Yeah, the beginning of a new economic stage. What are the features of this stage, Dr. Higazi?
I think the most important thing is that we realize that we've been shrinking as an economy. We've been facing a lot of economic challenges as a country. We have to survive, and not only that, we have to exceed even the expectations of the World Bank and our Western neighbors who rely on Egypt's investment climate as a hub and as a destination for multinational company investments. So if we succeed in developing the Suez Canal, not only the inauguration opening the new canal, but also setting up the stage for developing a new community and a new industry around the area, especially in the field of logistics, I think that will send very positive signals to foreign investors that Egypt is open for business and has not been hindered by all of the terrorist activities and events that took place in Egypt and the region recently.
Right. Dr. Higazi, how will it reflect on tourism? How is it going to be an opportunity to open up to the world?
Well, if you're able to manage to develop such a huge project, that says a lot about your ability to also secure your major cities. So it is definitely a very positive. It will have a very positive impact, I would have imagined, and hopefully it will be well read by all the touristic, major touristic companies in the world that Egypt is safe and can reopen again for major business in the area of tourism.
Thank you very much, Dr. Walid Higazi, economic expert, for joining us on the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you, sir. Back to you, Dr. Mehana, and we were talking about economic benefits of this important and huge project. What would you say?
In terms of the economic benefits, I think start from the 7 tunnels expected to be underneath the Suez Canal. We're going to have a connection between Sinai and the Eastern Delta that basically will help to create a network of roads, and part of the project as well as 3,500 kilometers basically to create that network. Looking at about 18 population areas that will be created around the corridor, industrial zones, talking about the technology valley, talking about basically about 500,000 fidans of agricultural basically development in that particular area, 1.8 million fidan of industrial areas. We're looking at also in terms of ports. All these projects that I'm listing are basically will contribute directly and indirectly on our unemployment. So we're talking about 1.8 fidans of basically industrial areas. We're talking about the ports around the corridor. The first, over 3 phases. The first phase will be 8 stations over 8 kilometers, and then looking at about 15 stations over 16 kilometers, and then 21 stations over 25 kilometers. So in total, we're talking about 50 kilometers of ports and stations that will basically create jobs, activate trading, and basically help tourism through the cruise liners that will pass through the Suez Canal, and on top of that, creating more than 1.5 million jobs. So in terms of, in brief, the economic benefits, and number one, looking at vitalizing the economic growth from what we're expecting now, 3.5% to 4% into probably 6% over the past 5 to 10 years. Number two, creating a large number of jobs, reaching about 1.5 million. We're talking about revenue and how the revenue comes. At the moment, the north caravan comes from the north, from port side, south into Suez. We're talking about 75 ships passing daily. By having exactly, so that doubling area of 35 kilometers will basically help reduce the waiting time in the Great Lakes from 11 hours to 3 hours. It basically will help the Suez Canal Authority to increase the number of ships passing from 75 to 93. So that will have an impact on employment, will have an impact on daily revenue. We're talking about, in terms of financial figures, 259% increase over the past 7-8 years, looking at about $500 million increase in every year. When it comes to hard currency or our reserve, we depend on increasing our reserves through 4 areas. Number one is tourism. When the tourist comes, brings dollars. Through export, when we export, get dollars. Foreign direct investment, when the investor comes, brings dollars. And then the Suez Canal. Those are the 4 areas where, as Egyptian economy, depend on to increase exactly our reserve. So definitely we're going to be looking at great increase in our reserve over the next 5 years. On top of that, we're going to see now maximizing of the tourism benefit, particularly that it's going to be the Riviera of Africa in the next 10 years in the Suez Sinai. So we're looking at a lot of projects, and definitely whether it's direct impact on the economy or indirect impact, we're going to see a lot of movements in that particular area. But we hope that the Egyptians will start moving from the Delta to the east, also to help populate that area.
Is very important.
And exactly. In terms of the cost, when we have that area populated, it's going to reduce our expenses on terrorism, because we got a lot of smuggling that coming from the east, whether it's on drugs. So I'm saving on health. I'm saving on security through populating that area. So definitely the project will put us on a next phase. And this is part of 22 mega projects that the President announced on, the northeast corridor, the Golden Triangle in the South of the Sea.
Hub.
Absolutely. So we're going to see a lot of projects moving around that particular hub.
Right. Dr. Mehna, talking about the challenges before the project, have we witnessed huge challenges to this project, and how about the challenges today, or maybe after the inauguration? Yeah. Will it differ from what we had before?
Absolutely. If you allow me, I would like to talk about how the political sphere looked like, and this is the main challenge, is the cultural challenge, how the Egyptians basically come back to trust political leaders. That's number one. Number two, we had a challenge of time. Over the past 5 years, we've seen a lot of conspiracies on the Egyptian soil and outside to try to break that country economically, socially, culturally, and politically. Terrorism, is part of it. So having the Egyptians to change that mindset that yes, we can. Probably the last mega project we had was 1968. Of the High Dam. After that, we've got the 1973. So since then, we haven't seen a mega project that can unite Egyptians. And,
the patriotic sense is very
absolutely.
high. If we're
so
about
this is definitely was a challenge to get Egyptians to trust again. Number two challenge is the time. The President doesn't have the time because people are pushing for economic development.
1 year instead of 3 years.
Absolutely. That's why he pushed for 1 year, because he doesn't have the time. He's trying to save. The third challenge was financing. And it was very clever because he knows about the economy. He read about the economy. He knew that there is an informal sector that can fund that. And we've seen now that's over 60% of the money that's coming from home. It's not coming actually from being invested in banks or other companies.
We want to clarify more about this issue of financing.
Yes.
How did it go? And at the same time, supporting the Egyptian economy in a way that is going to reflect, not would overburden or add any sort of more loans.
The first thing the first factor that burdens the Egyptian economy is debt.
Right.
And this is unfortunately, we've seen over the past month a budget deficit of 41 billion Egyptian pounds. Here we've got two routes, either to find ways to finance that debt or the deficit, or borrow money. So previous governments used to just take the easy way, because he's just going to leave his position, and then
and leave
whoever...
the accumulation at the same time.
Absolutely. So this is what we've been seeing now, reaching 2 trillion Egyptian pounds. So he went for financing it and getting to Egyptians to finance it. We're not going to get major companies to finance, because basically there is a risk. They're not sure foreign direct investment, or even the Egyptian businessmen, we've seen little from them so far. So the Egyptians themselves as a population, which basically means that he managed to sell the idea to them and get them to trust again.
The Egyptian will.
Absolutely.
Reflected in the best way
So
possible.
he managed to get over 60% of the money in the informal sector. It's not accounted for, and part of other money was drawn. On top of that, he increased the interest rate to 12%, so he attracted basically people. So it was definitely played in a very clever attracting the financing. And definitely, if we can capitalize on that and get the Egyptians to basically fund the rest of the mega projects, and definitely Egyptians will see a lot of change quite soon.
How will the Egyptian character be there evident in the project, and the sense of transformation also of the cities along the canal?
Yeah, Egyptians are very giving. They need a leader. There's always, we've seen that from Muhammad Ali. When he started, Egypt became one of the major countries in the world. We've seen that with President Nasser. We've seen that following President Sadat in 1973. Egypt, Mubarak has taken a step back, lost a lot of, particularly Africa. We lost the leadership in Africa, giving all opportunity to South Africa. So when he withdrew, the Egyptians withdrew with him. So it basically reflects that the Egyptian character, all it needs, and we've seen that in Ahmos if we go back in history. So Egyptians, all they need is a strong leader that basically can be transparent, honest with them.
Trust.
Exactly. So as soon as they trust him, they'll die for him. And this is exactly what's happening. And definitely we've seen a change in our culture. We've seen a change in mindset, but we need to translate that change in mindset and culture into actual work to increase the productivity in Egypt and become not just a trade hub, but a technological hub as well, as India managed to become over the past 20 years.
What are the aims for this sense of transformation of the different cities along the canal? How are they going to look like?
We're looking at industrial hub, that all these cities along the Suez Canal, the port side, Ismailia and Suez. On top of that, we've got the western part that links between the three cities and the eastern part of the delta. And on number 3, we're looking at Bir al-Abd al-Hassana in the central Sinai. Here's we're looking at expanding the industrial area. Now, the benefit of that is a security or a strategic security 100%, because this area becomes a trade hub, has the interest of the entire world. So if we have any attack from the east, now China has an interest, Russia has an interest, United States has an interest, Korea, Germany, etc. So number 1, we're going to benefit from that. So the cities will transform to become a world cities, a hub of trade, as we know about Cape Town, Hong Kong, Singapore. So we're looking at Suez, Portside and Ismailia to become that style of cities, to become basically a hub of trade. Free zones will expand in that particular area. So definitely the people of Portside particularly will see what they lost over the past 15 years of having. Absolutely. So we're looking at major trade that goes through that particular area. As I said earlier, the Silk Road will come back, and Sinai becomes the world hub as a replacement to Hong Kong that went back to China in 1990.
Great. Well, the Egyptian diplomacy also played a very important role to brief the international community on the project and what it has to deliver to the whole world. Egyptians had also helped diplomacy in doing so, because the whole world saw how Egyptians' will was quite reflected in supporting the project. In what way was that quite evident, and how is this sense of the Egyptian enthusiasm has helped diplomacy in that sphere?
The world will never trust any political system unless the people of the nation actually, and they trust them. We've seen that over the past 30 years. Egyptians have a problem with how the country is being run and managed during Mubarak. Now they've seen in a year that there's a major change. There is a change of culture, change of mindset, of change of ideas in the past 12 months. And that basically showed the world that the Egyptians are behind their leaders and definitely will trust them. We've seen that not just over the past 12 months from the president, but also we've seen that after June 30th, when the nation became behind one ideology or one vision, a political vision, the world started to trust, and they will basically back off. We've seen the objection from African countries, European countries, and United States saying that June 30th is a coup. But when they found the Egyptians are basically pushing that, no, it is a revolution, we don't care about what is exactly. It's the people's will, and we keep marketing that. So definitely the foreign ministry or the foreign affairs ministry has a major role in that to market that brand. And Americans really, when it comes to business, they have a say that if you have $100, just buy a product for $10 and market it for $90. So marketing is a major tool that you can use for success. The foreign affairs, for the first time, I must say, that they're actually doing a proper business to try to market. And I thank Mr. Shukri for his efforts, because we've seen that, like during June 30th, we couldn't really prove to the world that June 30th was a revolution. At this point, foreign representation, whether it's on trade, tourism, or even political representation, they basically reflecting how it's going through the Egyptian society, how the Egyptians are funding the project. They don't need the rest of the world. And for the first time over the past 100 years, Egyptians will say no to borrowing from the International Fund. That's a change. And basically, it shows if we have a trust in ourselves, have a trust in our political leaders, the world will have a trust in us.
Right. Doctor, fighting terrorism through development, and this is a point that you have been stressing earlier. It's a very important tool and a very important asset, how development can help us combat terrorism, how we can be able to fight destruction with a sense of construction. Is the project lively portraying this methodology?
Absolutely. Terrorism is being witnessed as an ideology that is being, some people trying to enforce it through force and violence. But it's actually an ideology that is marketed through some tools that we as population or as political leaders, we actually contribute to that, like hunger, poverty. So through some of the studies, we reached 6 factors that can actually contribute to terrorism. Number 1 is the cultural erosion, where slowly the culture is forgotten. And we're talking about religious culture. We see now deviation from the main course, whether it's Christianity or Islam. So we start believing in wrong ideas. If you see something wrong, change it with...
in Laylat al-Qadr celebration was
exactly.
that Al-Azhar needs to move to
a revolution. Absolutely. So the first thing that the in conspiracies, international nations or the large nations try to push is the deviation from the main moderate culture course. Number 2 is education. Once we have a damage in the education sector, you find that we learn the wrong thing. Number 3 is health. When people are not in a proper health system, and we've seen that virus C is becoming one of the top in the world, so health contributes. When people are sick, they're going to die, they basically might accept any effort to basically participate in terrorism. So health, education, culture, corruption in administrative system, the government, because when officials accept bribery, nation accept bribery, when officials get involved in wrong acts, population follows these wrong acts. These are all factors.
And fighting corruption.
Absolutely. And lastly is the food. So these 5 factors plus having a competition with the army in the actual political sphere, not on the ground level, basically contribute. So if we gather these 5 factors and fight them, fight the corruption in the health system, fight corruption in education, fight corruption in culture, and this is what the President was referring to as the revolution in our understanding of what the religion principle. Absolutely. And on different factors, I think that is going to help us to combat 50% of terrorism, because the other 50% is for those who carried weapons. So we've got 2 basically strategies. Strategy number 1 for those who preferred to use violence, we use violence with them through the...
any sort of sense of brainwash.
Absolutely, absolutely, because this is very dangerous. If you talk about in any country 2 or 3 million, it's basically a pot where they can always drag terrorists from it. So we need to dry out these different pots.
Take precautionary measures.
Absolutely. And we can control that through 2 main things, culture and education. How media is playing, and here I put a role on the Ministry of Culture to help Egyptians change the mindset and understand our religions a lot better.
Right. The route of the choice for the ship owners all around the world is going to be through this important project. How about alternatives that have been put out of competition?
Basically, the main alternatives we have directly in the region, we're talking about Jabal Ali in Emirates. Their annual revenue is about, at this year, 2014, I think it was 7. They're expecting 2015, 2016, it will reach $10 billion. Suez Canal, we gaining about $5.6 billion per annum. That's the direct competition when it comes to the logistics. I think once we complete the Suez Canal corridor, we're going to have a major difference. Panama Canal, North Sea, Cape of Good Hope, and Singapore Canal, those are the 4 main competitors around the world. Suez Canal is the closest route, And the advantage of the Suez Canal, it's in the middle of 3 continents that basically very sticky when it comes to population. It contributes about 20% of basically the empty ships passing through the Suez Canal, and 10% or 12%, sorry, of the total trade. So the number of ships passing through the Suez Canal is definitely huge. The unfortunate thing of Suez Canal, it's basically the depth, and trying through the widening it and deepening it to reach the 65, exactly 65 feet. But the advantage of that against the Panama Canal, that it doesn't have locks on it. It's very open, straight through, and definitely the availability of coal, as in that particular region, again, is the Panama Canal has got availability of oil around it. So definitely the region that is served by the Suez Canal is the best in the world, and we need to contribute. So I'm hoping that at least we reach 30% of the international trade passing through the Suez Canal, particularly if we manage to get industrial zones into that particular area and expand into the eastern and western desert to become the hub of the trade in the world in the 21st century.
Right. Dr. Mohanna, as the countdown has started and in anticipation of the big day, what after August the 6th?
After August the 6th, we're going to start basically the implementation of the development of the Suez Canal axis. I'm talking about 8 years. Yeah. This is where we're going to be starting basically the technology valley, the technology university,
the city's
transformation, exactly, yeah. The 6 tunnels. The 6 tunnels already started. The president, before the economic forum in March, already opened 1,700 kilometers before the economic forum. We're talking about another 2,000 kilometers to link Sinai to the eastern delta. So we're talking about a transformation, major transformation on the industrial trade, tourism, as well as regional planning in that particular area, hoping that we reach a number of cities on the Suez Canal corridor on the east and west to use the resources that are available in Sinai.
Well, we're looking forward to the inauguration day, to the big day, and actually it's Egypt's gift to the whole world.
Yes.
Dr. Ahmed Mohanna, Professor of Political Economy, thank you very much for joining us
and happy returns
tonight on Nile TV, and happy Bible.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Daily Debate special episode tonight, while we were celebrating the feast here in Egypt and the message of celebrating the Bayram extended to the whole world. I'm Tagheed Hussein, thanking you all for watching.